Chucky was blown up in the last film. How the hell does he come back in Child's Play 3? Well, I'm glad you asked. The doll manufacturing plant where Chucky was exploded, and apparently still remains, was closed down after the events of the second film. 8 years later, a CEO does what CEOs do and reopens the factory to produce new dolls to sell to the masses. Chucky's remains were cleaned up, but some of his blood got mixed in with the molten plastic that is being used in the latest batch of new dolls. In theory, now there could be multiple Chuckies. Unfortunately, the movie didn't have the budget for that, so there's just one. Anyway, Chucky kills the new CEO and locates Andy. Andy has had a troubled childhood. Killer doll aside, Andy has trouble with all of the foster homes that he's sent to. So the foster home system does what anyone would do in this situation. They send Andy to Kent Military School. As one would expect, shenanigans are bound to ensue. Andy quickly becomes friends with an 8-year-old cadet named Ronald, a cadet that is a nervous Nellie named Harold, and a romantic interest named Kristen. Chucky eventually mails himself to the military school, addressed to Andy. Ronald is supposed to deliver the package, but decides to keep it for himself since he knows it's a good guy doll. Chucky isn't having it in this movie. He immediately bursts out of the package and accosts young Ronald, angry that it isn't Andy. But Chucky remembers the plot from the first Child's Play. No, not the revenge subplots. The plot revolving around the fact that Chucky can only swap bodies with the first person he reveals his identity to. Chucky then tells Ronald all about who he is so he can Ade Dewey his Dembala again and finally be out of the toy's body. You know, I don't really understand the logic here. I mean, sure, Chucky's blood was mixed into a batch of plastic and put into a new body, but the voodoo ritual was complete. Chucky was stuck. I guess I'm looking too much into a movie about a killer doll, especially because they forget about this plot point in later sequels. Anyway, Ronald thinks that Chucky is trying to play and runs away in order to play with him. And the rest of the movie is Chucky trying to find Ronald to play Swap the Soul. Andy eventually finds out that Chucky is back, and Chucky starts killing people, tormenting Andy, and chasing Ronald. Andy and Kristen end up at a carnival where Chucky takes Ronald. Chucky isolates himself with Ronald and begins the voodoo chant. This has got to be the longest chant in the entire series, and it's the main reason why I think that the voodoo ritual was never going to work, because Chucky's soul was already permanently attached to the doll. And again, if only they could retcon that. Never mind that. Andy catches up to Chucky and throws him into a large metal fan. That's when Chucky gets serious and... oh, actually, never mind. He's dead again. And that's Child's Play 3 in a nutshell. I did gloss over a lot of major plot points, but I feel like I want to leave some surprises for you. Want to know a Hyper fun fact that doesn't relate to anything in the movie? This was my favorite Child's Play / of Chucky sequel at one point. Boo. Oh, cut it out. I did really like this movie because it had some funny lines, and Chucky was more sadistic than the previous films. I'll spoil one more plot point before talking about something else. There's an annual war games at the school, and the games are played with actual rifles, but they fire paintballs or something like that. Well, Chucky finds out which team Andy is on, and replaces the opposing team's ammunition with live rounds. I don't know, that's just evil, and exactly what a slasher should be doing in these movies. Remember when I mentioned the blood in the molten plastic earlier? Well, it was always strange to me as to why there was only one Chucky to emerge from the mixture and not multiple. Apparently, the original plot of the film was that there were going to be multiple Chuckies running around. This was ultimately scrapped, though, due to budget reasons. Of course, this plot was revisited in Cult of Chucky. Again, more on that later this week. While Child's Play 3 is often considered the worst of the Child's Play series, I recommend you give it a chance. Sure, the screenplay was rushed, but I do think that it's a fantastic film in its own right. Chucky is more sadistic than ever, at least until some of the sequels down the line. Definitely check Child's Play 3 out.